In this video, I'm going to walk you through the soil lab. So there's a couple ways you can get to this lab. The first thing you can do is click on Course Materials, click on Content, go to the Geology and Soil module, and click through until you see the soil lab and then download it there. The other way you can get to it is you can click on this button, Geology and Soil, and it will take you to the course resource newsletter. And you can just kind of scroll down till you get to the soil quality lab. And you'll see that I've got a couple hints here, but I also have a lot of frequently asked questions that I've gotten from students, and then like a little hack for the lab here. The document that I write on today, I will upload here so you guys can use that when you're working on making your lab. And then this video obviously will get linked here as well. So let's go ahead and click on the handout. Okay. And I'm just going to download it. I'm going to download it to the desktop. Okay. So this document is a PDF. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this video, and I'm going to make a Word document for you guys. That way you guys can go ahead and have a document that you can edit when you're working on this lab. Okay, so what I've done here is I've gone ahead and I've made like a lab report template for this lab, and we'll kind of work out of this document. So, and what I've done here for each section is I've literally copied and pasted the things that you need to do from the rubric into each section, so I can make sure that I do all of those things. Okay, and then as we're working, I'll kind of just put all my data, I'll work with it in the data section, and then we can kind of clean it up later. But since the data is where we're going to put all of our data tables and things like that, we'll just leave that there. So this lab has like a virtual section, and it has like a section you do in person. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out the soil texture. And the way a lot of folks do this is they use this thing called a soil texture triangle. And you can kind of figure out what type of soil you have by, you can say like this person has 50% clay. Well, this is just showing that side because that would make sense. 50% clay, 50% silt, and 50% sand. But let's say this person had 65% sand. It would be like halfway here. And so they would kind of go up this way. And then they had 20% silt, so they would kind of go down this way. And then they had 15% clay, so it'd be down this way, so they'd meet, you know, somewhere around here, and that would tell you what kind of soil you have. This would be like loamy sand or sandy loam. There's a difference. And so then we'll kind of go from there. So the first thing you do is you're going to make a sample, and you're going to have it settle out basically. And so sand is largest, so it's going to settle out first, then silt will settle out last, and clay will settle out the very last if it settles out at all. Okay, so really ideally you should start this lab a couple days in advance, but let's be honest, no one does. So how do we make this a little faster? So what I've got here is I'm going to kind of explain how you set it up, and then I'll show you the little hack. So you're going to prepare your soil sample. You want to crush it by hand. You don't want any like really huge pieces. So you want it as fine as possible, and then you're going to put a cup of your soil in a clean jar. Okay, so you want your jar to be like at least 24 ounces, but you want to put a cup in there. Then you'll add 3 tablespoons of non-sudsing detergent, like dishwasher detergent or Calgon, to your jar, and then that's going to basically act as a dispersing agent, and it'll break up the soil into sand, silt, and clay. And then you're going to add 3 cups of water. You're going to cover the jar. You're going to shake really vigorous for about 5 to 10 minutes. And then you're going to let it stand for 24 hours. After 24 hours, your entire sample should have settled. But let's say you don't have 24 hours because you waited till the last minute to start your lab. What can you do? Okay. So let's look at this video, and I'll kind of explain, I'll kind of just show you with this demonstration. So basically the sand should settle out really quickly within like 30 seconds. Okay, So what you can do is what some people do when they do this soil lab is they'll wait for the sand to settle out in about 30 seconds. You need to time it with a timer, and then you'll pour everything but the sand out. Okay? Then all you have left is silt and clay. Okay? Then in 30 minutes, set a timer, and then after 30 minutes your silt should settle out. So then you can pour everything else out. So once you have, if you know like the total volume of your sample, let's say your total volume of sample was 24 mils, okay, and let's write this here just to discuss it. So let's say our total volume was 24 mils, and then let's say 10 mils of sand settled out. Okay, that leaves us with 14 mils. Okay, and let's say 5 grams or 5 mils of silt settles out. Okay, so what do you have left? You have 9. So that means you'd have 9 mils of clay. So if you don't have 24 hours, you can kind of like cheat the system a little bit by doing that. Once you've done that, you can kind of calculate your percentages, and instead of heights you'll just do volume. Okay, so again, these formulas you would want to calculate in your analysis section. You see how they have calculations here, so we would want to put those here, and I believe yes, I made a copy of these formulas to put right here for you. Okay, so you can see that this is one of the things you'll have to calculate, and you've got your formula there. Okay, so let's kind of go on. The next thing you're going to do is look at the groundwater or the water holding capacity of your soil. So this is going to discuss like the porosity of your soil, how much water is it going to hold, and how much is it gonna like allow to flow through. So the porosity is like sand and gravel has a high porosity, and so that means it's just going to flow through really easily, but clay can hold up to 60% of their total volume in water. The next thing is permeability, and this is the rate at which water moves through the rocks or the soil. So again, sand, gravel, limestone, things like that, they move really, really fast because they're large particles, so there's lots of space for them to move through. Clay, not so much. It's going to take a really long time for water to flow through clay. That's why, a lot of us in Georgia, you might notice when it rains, sometimes if you have really clayey soil, the water will just kind of sit on the soil and it won't soak through. Okay, so let's kind of see what we're discussing here. We need 2 coffee filters, or use some filter paper, fit them in a funnel, add about 20 grams of your soil to the funnel, and then hold your funnel of soil over a beaker. If you don't have a beaker, use a cup, and pour 10 mils of water into the funnel, and then time how long it takes for the water to start coming out of the bottom, and the time it takes the water to stop coming out of the bottom. Okay, so this table is showing you kind of like an example of sand, silt, and soil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this data table in here for you, and then you'll be able to put your information in here. So I'm going to just pause the video for a second while I make the data table, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so now I've made your data table in here. So basically, as soon as you start, you put that water in there, you're going to start your timer, and then whatever time that it takes for the water to start coming out, let's say it's 5 seconds, you'll write that there. And let's say it takes, I don't know, 1,500 seconds for it to stop, and then you'll discuss the distance traveled. And the distance is going to be like how tall your soil sample is. So let's go back to this picture just as an example. Let's say your soil is in this funnel like this, and it's coming out the bottom. Let's say this is a funnel. From here to here, would be the height of your sample, whatever that is. And so I'll say that, I don't know, 10. Okay, these are completely made up numbers. Don't use my numbers. They're fake. They won't make sense. Okay, I'm just putting it out there right now. So now let's go through and do it again. Okay, so now we want to look at the rate of water flow through your sand. So you're going to use your data, okay, and I'm going to put these formulas in your handout too, just to make it a little easier for you. Okay. Put this in here for you. This is going to be calculation, so I'm going to put it here and then I'll move it where I want it. Okay. Oops. Now let's move this to the analysis section. And I believe there's a section in the analysis that says rate of water flow calculations shown right here. Okay, so these are the calculations you're going to want to do, okay, in this section. Okay, the next part is a virtual lab about soil salinity. I'm going to skip that for a second and I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to this analysis and discussion just so we can kind of finish our lab report part and then we'll go on. Okay, so then these are your questions in your analysis section. Okay, I have a feeling, yep, when I put them in here, they're going to kind of be a mess. So I'll fix them for you. And then these are basically the questions that you're going to answer in your lab report, and you can answer them in, right here. You can, fill out your answers in between right here. I'll make you a space for that just so you can do that. Or, you can put them wherever you want. So, for example, you can I'll put write your answer here. Okay, I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for you so you know exactly what you need to do here. Okay. Okay, so you'll put your answers there. And then in your conclusion, you will discuss these things, okay? And you don't really want to discuss them. You want to write this in paragraph form. So write in paragraph form, but discuss these things. Okay. So that's the stuff that you're going to discuss in your conclusion. Here's your analysis section. You're going to discuss this. You're going to calculate these calculations. So show calculations here. Again, you're going to show some more calculations here. You have to show your work in order to get full credit. And the reason I do that is because on the AP exam, if you don't show your work, you don't get any points on the FRQ. And so I really want to kind of just kind of hammer home that you really have to show your work. Okay, that's why I always make you show your work. Okay, and then your rate of permeability, which is basically that is, let's get those formulas. Okay, so for your rate of permeability, basically it's going to be your rate is going to be the distance over time. So that's this V, this D over T. That's your rate or your velocity. Okay, so that's the formula you'll use here. They have it here, but it's kind of mixed in with these. Okay. And then you've got those. You've got some data here. You'll also want to put like how much. I'm going to make you a data table where you can put, you know, the amount. Well, actually, I'll just write it here. Amount of sand, amount of silt, amount of clay. Okay, and you can put that there. I want to make sure you've got everything you need. Okay, pictures would be really nice, but you don't have to have those. You've got some data in data tables here. I'll take this out so you don't have that in the middle of it. Okay, your methods, you're going to write your methods. Remember, your methods, you do not want them to be word for word all of this. You want to kind of give us the most important parts of the methods, but enough methods to where someone else could duplicate your investigation. And then you want to discuss your control. If you have a control in this experiment, your variables, that would be like your independent and dependent, and then any measurement techniques that you used. Okay, and then again in your introduction, you're going to want to discuss the background of this kind of information, and you want to write your testable hypothesis. Okay, any information you use to get the background, you'll cite your sources at the end. Okay, so that's basically what your lab report is going to look like. Now let's go back to this virtual lab part. Okay, this right here, this link, I can't really get it to click on it very well here, but you can go ahead and I've got it there for you. Okay, so let's kind of see what we've got going on here. Okay, here's our lab, and let's see what it says. Complete it and take notes as necessary, and then you'll write your answers in the analysis section. So this is data, right? So your notes are going to be here. You'll write that here. Okay. So again, you'll just kind of follow the procedure for this lab. So this is telling you a lot about the background of soil, which I would definitely take note on that, and because it will be really helpful for the AP exam. And then now we're going to just kind of select a type of soil. So we're going to change our percentages here. So let's say, see how we do this. Okay, so we're just going to basically move this around, and this is going to give us our different types. Okay, so I've kind of measured it out, and then we're going to test the soil. Then I'm going to click pour water. Okay. So here's 51 mils that was poured. Observe the readout. This is how much water was poured. Then we can find the porosity by dividing the volume of water held by the total volume of soil, and then multiply the decimal by 100. So I'm going to put this here because you might need this. Let's see. Well, that says permeability, so you won't actually have to do this calculation. And then you'll repeat it for 13 different soil types. You don't really have to repeat this for 13 different soil types, right? It just kind of wants to give you an idea. So let's, if we reset it, maybe put, change some different kinds just to kind of give an idea of what it would be like. Test the soil, pour the water, just to get an idea of how much water is poured in there. Okay, and then you can again write those notes on the background information for this, and then kind of what happens during this virtual lab. Maybe test like at least 3 types, and then discuss how they're different. Okay, and it shows you the types right here. Okay, so that's basically what you do for that part. So I think this video was a little long, but hopefully it was helpful. Here's a title. You could make a more interesting title, but you do want it to be somehow related to soil, and then you'll want to put your name here. Okay, and that's basically how you write a lab report. And then obviously all of this is in paragraph form when you turn it in, but I just have it in bulleted form because I think it makes it a little easier for you to read and a little easier to figure out. The analysis section, you can leave that in bulleted form since there are all those questions. And then your data section, you can kind of leave it like this too, because you don't have to put your data in paragraphs. You've got it in data tables and things like that. But your introduction should definitely be in paragraph form, and your conclusion should definitely be in paragraph form. So again, hopefully this was helpful, and I will put this document right here in this section for the soil quality lab, so you can use this document to write your lab report if you'd like. And I'll post the video here as well.